Hey, John Browning, it's a great week where I am. How is it where you are?
It is very nice. It's warm. It's sunny. They were saying we would get some rain this afternoon, but haven't seen it yet.
That's all
So
right. I'll take a little rain once in a while.
yep,
It's
it helps
good.
plants grow.
It does help the brand, yes, and it gives me an opportunity to go mow the yard again. Um, hey, I've got a question, and this doesn't affect, well, maybe it does, more people than I really know, but you've heard of people who have worked for a company for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, let's say. They're usually middle-aged people, and the company gets bought or something, and the company comes in and offers them an early buyout package or an early retirement package.
Right.
Unpack that for us. I've heard about that happening. I've never had it happen to me, but do you know anybody that's happened with, and does it turn out okay, or what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, the one that I know the best is my dad. He had an early retirement slash buyout.
Okay.
And I don't know a lot about it, but that was back in his mid to late 50s. I don't remember the exact year. And he is now 83 years old, just turned 83.
Okay.
So he had a pension on top of the buyout.
Okay.
So I mean, he's doing okay. He doesn't live a lavish lifestyle, doesn't want to either. So that's fine with him. And he's getting a pension because they had a pension back then, and that's still paying him. And he also gets Social Security, but he also has savings as well. So it can work out just fine.
So he retired mid to late 50s, and he's 83 now. So could you say that he's been retired as long as he worked, maybe?
Yeah, it's real close, if not over that.
Huh. Yeah. That's amazing. And as amazing as that sounds, with the length of life that we have now, it would not be unusual for somebody to work 30 years and be retired 30 or 40 years because we're living longer. And I'm glad your dad had a pension. We talked about that 2 or 3 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. We talked about how to create your own personal pension if you don't have a pension. He's working or living off Social Security is a portion of that. We talked about that a couple of times ago. You said he's got some investments or 401k. We're going to talk about that in depth in the coming weeks. So he's layering different income streams on top of each other to make up the whole river of income, right?
Yes.
And that's really important. But help us understand this buyout, early retirement thing. And I'm sure there are, again, 1,000 different ways it happens, but is there a way to kind of ballpark, here's typically when this is going to happen? Is it a corporate buyout? Or, I mean, when does something like this, should I expect something like this in our lifetime if I'm working for a company? Or, I mean, what are the odds? Or what does it matter?
Well, it matters. But I think we can expect, I mean, even as old as I am, right? We no longer tend to work for the same company for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's true.
When I tell people that I worked for one of the big Wall Street companies for 18 years, they kind of look at me like, wow, somebody younger. Because most of the time you don't work for a single company that long anymore for whatever the case may be. Either you decide you could do better somewhere else, or they decide that you should do better somewhere else. But whenever you hear that your company is being acquired, or frankly, your company is acquiring someone else, you should be prepared to potentially be, shall we call it downsized, reduction in force, just plain old laid off. There's a lot of politically correct ways to say it, but at the end of the day, you no longer are getting that paycheck.
Yeah. You're not going to that cubicle anymore.
Right. And it's okay. People think, like, when I was laid off after 18 years at the same company, I mean, I felt like, and they tell you that this is what happens. You feel like somebody died.
Yep.
I mean, that at some point that had become my identity, and I'm willing to admit that. And I'm happy to chat with somebody who's going through it now, because it's tough. You think kind of the world just ended. But it didn't. I assure you,
That's
it did
good.
not just end. And the key thing is, what do you do with, typically you get a chunk of money.
Yeah.
And plus you've got this 401k that you've been investing in. You probably don't have a pension or anything like that, but you've got a 401k that you've been putting money into. You maybe didn't know exactly what it was involved with or anything else, or just it goes out and does something, right? So now what do you do with that 401k? Hint number one, as we've talked about in previous episodes, don't leave it there.
Right.
But what do you do then with this chunk of money? Well, most people will take it and put it all in the bank, and they're scared to death. And this is a normal, customary response, and frankly, might be the right one depending on your situation.
Mm-hmm.
But another way to do it is, keep looking for that job, keep looking for that next whatever it is, and invest that money in a way that's right for you. And it can actually be a very good thing, because if you get that next job, right? Because when today's 50 is, what 70 used to be, or whatever they say about that. And, I know I'm 50, I'm getting ready to turn 52, and I am not ready to retire. I hope to work another 20, maybe longer years. And because I like what I do. That's right. Like you do as well. Absolutely. And so it could be a great thing. All of a sudden I got this chunk of money and I get my next job. Well, whatever you don't, please don't go buy a boat, because boats are holes in the water into which you pour money, right? That's just, okay, you can buy a boat, but maybe not the bigger one, maybe the small one. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's not the first thing you should do. If this happens to you, if you're downsized or outsized or early retirement or buy, the first thing you should do really is call John and explain to him what's going on so he can guide and direct you. Yeah. Taking money into cash may not be a bad thing, although there are probably some tax ramifications to that, but I don't know, because I don't give financial advice on this podcast, nor do you, John. That's right. So these are conversations we have to have, because the other thing, early retirement, early buyouts, we were like, yeah, that happened in the old time, like with your dad. But what about people who start companies, tech related companies, and they build them for 5 or 6 years, then they get bought out by a bigger competitor, right? It's going to happen.
As a matter of fact, I work with a couple folks that are in this or going to be in this situation, and it's a real concern, because those things are typically, sometimes they get shares, sometimes they get cash, sometimes they get both. Sometimes they agree to work for that company for a certain length of time. Sometimes they're out the next day. And what do? They have spent their lives building this company, and suddenly all they're left with is a chunk of change or restricted shares that they can't really buy anything with, but maybe they can reduce their risk if they do things the correct way. There are ways to reduce the risk of something that must be held.
Okay.
There's ways we can reduce that risk for them. So there's a lot of things that go into it if you are just having what we call a liquidity event. And that's also, by the way, where we really get into building your life. Here we go. Not just your portfolio.
Yeah.
Because you have, generally speaking, you have really put your life into this company. If you've been that successful and you have built something that somebody else is willing to pay a lot of money for, that's going to make life-changing money, you may not have built your life the way that you really want your life to be.
Yep.
And you can chat with Elon Musk or any of those folks that have billions and they have more than they can spend, and they will tell you that money really doesn't buy happiness, but it can make the life that you choose to build much easier.
Yeah.
If you treat it kindly.
Yeah. Money's somebody told me the other day, John, money is an amplifier. If you're a wicked person, it's going to amplify that. If you're a good person, it's just going to amplify that. It's just going to amplify. It's just a tool, right? It doesn't bring. I was watching a movie the other day, and the guy said, whoever said that money can't buy happiness never bought a dog. I chuckled. I'm like, okay, there you go. Other than buying a dog, yeah, money can't buy the happiness, because we just see it in recent months with, billionaires getting divorced. Money's not buying them happiness, right?
Right.
And so that's why you have to build a life, not a portfolio. Don't focus on the portfolio. Focus on building your life. Use the portfolio and let John help you build the portfolio to sustain your life and give you the lifestyle that you want. And when this opportunities, I love how you put that, a liquidity event. When you're sitting in a position where you may have a chunk of change, as I say, coming your way, you need somebody like John Browning that you can reach out to and say, okay, help. And then you can have some conversations around it, right? Because some people just get a few $1,000s or tens of thousands. Others get a few tens of millions because they've been part of a building of a .com or whatever, a tech company that gets acquired by somebody else. And you just may be a third or fourth or fifth person down the line, but you're going to get a chunk of change that you never really expected. It's like, wow, what do I do? Right? Because you're too young to retire at 25 or 35.
Right.
But you can use it to build that life.
Right. And you're so true. You don't have to be the owner of the company to make quite a lot of money in the event of a liquidity event. You think of there was a story of Facebook, the janitor, had, I don't know if it was 1 million or several 100,000. Suddenly, what do I do with this? Right.
Yeah.
And
yes, exactly.
And if you suspect, by the way, that you are in a company like this that's going to have a liquidity event, and often they'll talk about it, and if you're in that situation, talk to a financial advisor before it happens.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you this as well, and this is a really well-known statistic, is that a very large percentage of lottery winners go bankrupt. They go broke.
Yeah.
And there's
as do a lot of sports figures, young sports figures who don't have John Brownings in their corner. They make millions, but they spend millions.
Right.
Yeah. So absolutely.
And they don't have the no guy.
That's right. They don't. John's the no guy. That's an NO. Telling all your friends and neighbors and relatives who want money, saying no. The other thought I had, John, was I've got a friend who's going into esports. Esports is huge, big money there. Right. So if you or your children are in esports, they need to be talking about John about these things, because it's just crazy how the money can flow so quickly, and you can either blow it or stow it or invest it and build a life. And that's where you come in, is helping people just think through and navigate and say, well, here's a right thing to do. Somebody told me the other day that I think it was Shaquille O'Neal, big basketball guy, right?
Oh yeah, he's a successful guy. Yeah,
on
and off the court.
Well, because of the investment strategies and decisions he made early on, his John Browning gave him great advice, I guess. And now I guess he lives every month on, like, I think he gets $1 million a month out of his investments every month. You could almost live on that. I'm sure he has Social Security on top of that and all that. But
sure,
I thought, oh my goodness. But he made decisions early on, knowing that he was going to make lots of money, but he didn't waste it. He planned well. I'm sure he invested consistently, and he's doing really well right now. And you don't have to make the money that Shaquille O'Neal makes to plan well and do well during your life and your retirement. If you've got somebody like John Browning helping you, navigating you, guiding you, asking you right questions to help you build the life you want. And if you want the boat, John will help you figure out how to get the boat.
I'll help you plan for it. That's
right. Because that's what it needs to be. So, John, thanks for another great episode about early buyouts. When I first started about this, I thought this is kind of a non sequitur, as my eldest son would say. It's just that's a thing of the past. But the more we got into it, I realized, no, it's a thing of the current and future, because of all these buyouts that are happening, all these tech companies and different companies. Young people are going to experience this liquidity event in their life when they're going to get 10,000, 20,000, 200,000. what are they going to do with it? The other thought that I wanted to throw in here is when you're working at a company and they start talking about the IPO that our company is going to do to have an IPO. Okay, that's when you need to call John and say, hey, may or may not happen, but what do I do? Because if you've got stock in a company that's going public, that might be a liquidity event for you.
Right.
So anyway, that's fun. I love topics like that come out of the blue and really surprise me. That was fun. So John, that's all I have for today. Let's surprise them with a great episode again next time, because I know it's going to be good. So I look forward to talking with you then.
All right. We'll see you then.